Jessyca Lewis, and I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and this is Priscilla Hennekam, and she is in Adelaide, Argentina. I'm getting your
Australia.
countries mixed up. You've been to 16 countries. She's actually in Adelaide, Australia.
Yes.
She's 16 hours ahead of me, so she's in the future. So what time is it there, Priscilla?
All right, we just changed it was 8:30 till one day before. Now it's 9:30 now because we just have the daylight.
Now, one day before.
Yeah.
So we are on Monday. She's on Tuesday starting her day with morning sickness and not feeling very well. But here she is smiling. She just had to go, she was nauseated and had to go vomit for a minute. And she's right back.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much that's the
a good time to taste wine too, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Yes.
So this is a live broadcast. Apparently Facebook isn't working today, so it's not broadcasting on Facebook from my understanding, but hopefully we can add the recording there. So, and hopefully the video is clear. She's not seeing me very clearly on her side, but I'm seeing myself clearly on this side. But when we're broadcasting between countries and go live, we have interesting things that happen. So Time to Wine is a live broadcast that features experts in wine, social media marketing and leadership. And it's every other Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'm currently working with my friend in South Africa for the next broadcast. And the live stream broadcast is featured on LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And it's 11 a.m. every other Friday. And starting in November, it will be every Friday because I have a queue going all the way through December at this point. And now we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, Facebook Live. And we'll be broadcasting live at different international times. So for Priscilla, we had to do 4:00 today because it's very difficult to schedule a meeting between two people that are in a 16-hour time change.
Australia, it's very difficult.
Things to mention. If you're interested in sponsoring the broadcast, please contact me directly because I'd love to have brand sponsorships to keep the broadcast going. Also, I have people sending me different sorts of products to give away for live giveaways. And so if you're interested in participating in that, please let me know too. So without further ado, let's talk to Priscilla Hennekam. She is Brazilian and she's from Natal, Brazil. And she is currently living and she's a beautiful Brazilian woman with a lovely Australian accent, which I find very amusing since I go to Brazil a lot. She is a specialist in wines, and for the past 5 years, she's traveled to over 30 different wine regions around the world, and she has her own business. So we're going to talk a little bit about her work history. We're going to talk about Mendoza, Argentina, and the variety of wine regions she's visited. And so let's go ahead and talk about that. So Priscilla, do you want to talk about your work history?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much, Jessyca, for the beginning. So thank you for the invitation. I do like your idea to interview people around the world.
Okay, go ahead.
And I have different people all the time from different countries and see the stories behind of the wine. Is not just in America, but in different countries. I think that's a pretty cool idea and to share that to the world. So I'm in Australia now, but I guess you say Argentina because I have a background in Argentina as well. So I lived in Argentina for work in Argentina before coming to Australia. So that's part of my work life. Everything started in Brazil, but I left Brazil very in the early days. So I was still very young when I left Brazil, like 10 years ago. So I was 22 when I left Brazil. And then, to see working in Argentina for 4 years and afterwards come to Australia. So I'm in Australia for over 5 years now. So, so it has been like great to be able to work in different wine regions. Still working with the wine regions in Brazil. In Brazil, making wines. A lot of people don't know that. But we make wines in Brazil as well. And then, and I have been to so many wine regions in Europe as well in 2018. So that's giving more chances to learning more and to be able to have more experience in the wine industry. So, it's great.
oh gosh, I sound really loud. Let me see if I can fix that real quick on my side. So, I've been in Brazil. A lot of the wine is made near Uruguay. Isn't that correct? Down in Rio Grande do
Grande do
Sul.
Sul. Yes.
Sul.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I
So
I
well
had to
done,
remember
Jessyca.
which area it was. So down in the
Well done. You're
down
well
in the
done.
southern
Yes.
part of Brazil.
Most of the wine made in Brazil is in the south, but we see actually everywhere. So we have a wine made in the north of Brazil as well, in Petrolina. And we have wines made in Sao Paulo as well, and then like a little bit far away from the capital, but yeah, 3 hours from the capital, from Sao Paulo, we have Espírito Santo do Pinhal. Is another wine region. It's growing very quickly, and then it seems like it will be the future of Brazilian wines there. So that's where I'm working now. So very glad to be there. We're making like we have a different system. I don't know if you have heard about, but in Brazil, and in some parts of Brazil, we call double prune. So you actually prune the vines just before summer, so they actually keeping sleeping during the summer, because we just want to harvest in the winter time. Instead to pick the grapes in the summer, we want to pick the grapes in the winter. So we call like winter harvest. So it's just because the weather usually in that regions in the summer is quite wet. So if you have like your growing season in the summertime, so we have a lot of rain, and the rain can actually, you can dilute your grapes, or you can have a lot of fungi disease in your vines. So that is why instead to growing the season in the summertime, we just do in the winter time. So we do the opposite. And having working very well there. So I have a lot of people doing that now, and he's been growing that system. It's very interesting because a lot of people don't really know that actually exists.
And then Natal, is that in the Bahia of Brazil? Where is Natal located?
So where I'm from originally,
I've been to Manaus.
It's
in
not
Olinda.
really close to. I was like close to Recife.
Okay.
Recife.
Okay.
I think you haven't been to Recife.
Yeah.
It's the northeast. So it's pretty in the very east, very close to the ocean. So when you just see in the maps, it's pretty much in the northeast, very close to the coastal, the east, very close to the ocean, and then pretty much cross the ocean and you see the Europe continent. So yeah, so it was being in my city was a lot of Europeans coming through to my city to go into Brazil because we're very close to the ocean. So yeah.
Okay. I've been to the northeast of Brazil. So I've been all over that area there, but I've been to the beaches in the Bahia in the northeast of Brazil there. So we like talking about that too. So
Yeah.
Okay, so you were faculty of tourism in Natal. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So it was so in 2008. So I started to do, actually, I was just apply for studying university. I did not really know what I wanted to do, but I like tourism, I like people, because I came from actually my city is quite a lot of tourism from Europe's coming all the time, and a lot of Brazilian tourism as well. So I thought I maybe just stay in that area. And the way I started to study tourism, but I didn't really know what I'm going to work with afterwards. But in one class, I had like a class about wine and gastronomy and things like that. So I started to get very interesting about these topics. And I did my thesis, my final assessment about wine and food and the combination between these two. And that is how I start to talk with a lot of people, and the people start to say like, oh, the wine industry is beautiful. Everyone is so happy. But at the same time, there's a lot of competition. It's not so many places to work in my city. We didn't have the wine 10 years ago. Was the wine industry still very small? And I just decided, so like I want to grow in my career. And I think the best thing to do right now is just live here and to see what's the world can offer for me for work in the wine industry. And then I went to just next door, Argentina, because Argentina, we are actually famous for making wines around the world. So that time, a lot of the wines in Brazil was actually from Argentina. And then that was a big decision for me because I was young and never really went to Sao Paulo. I never been in big cities like that, so I never traveled that much. And it was a girl was like, I need to go and just take the adventure, I guess. But it was amazing. I had a very good lucky there. I got a job with the wine industry very quickly, like after 3 months, 4 months after I arrived in Argentina. I started to work in the wine with the wines in Argentina and start to study there as well. So I did a 2 years diploma and the wines in Argentina. So in Escuela Argentina de Sommelier. And it was amazing because that's opened the doors as well to the wine industry over there. So I could meeting like winemakers and the owners of different wineries, and everything was pretty much easy as well. No, it's pretty good experience. Argentina is beautiful. Have you been there, Jessyca?
I've been to Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Yeah. So I believe in Mendoza.
I always wanted to stay in a youth hostel, and so I did. I went to Argentina, and I actually went and studied. I went and took tango lessons in Argentina.
Tango is beautiful. I tried to dance that, but it's too hard for me. I'm not good with that. Seriously.
I can also, I didn't tell you this. I can also samba.
Samba's easier.
Yeah, I can samba. Yeah. So
what do you dance better, samba or tango?
Which is better?
What do you dance better?
I think. Well, they're both so different. You know, tango is kind of very well. The problem in Argentina with tango is it's even different in the United States. When you're in Argentina, you can't look. You have to be enmeshed with the man's body, and what I mean by that is you have to put your face in their neck, and you're not allowed to look behind you. So all of the stepping you do in Argentina, it has to be following the man because you can't look around or look behind you. Yeah. And I think in their culture, if you were looking behind you, you were looking at another man. And so you were supposed to keep your face down in your own man's neck and not be looking out to the crowd, which is part of the culture. And then, so I would say samba is probably, I think that's fun, but samba is a little more joyous. I tend to really like Brazilian music a lot, and it's a lot more joyous and fun. And I was in a samba troupe for a really long time here with a lot of different Brazilian percussionists, and we had a capoeira group here also. So, okay, so we'll talk. So really quickly, I wanted to talk to you about, let's talk a little bit about your education. So you have a lot of education in wine. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. So the wine scene is considered to be male dominated. However, I'm talking to a lot of women that have worked in the wine industry. And so what do you feel about that? Do you feel it's male dominated, or do you feel like women are just as included as men?
I think it's changing now, Jessyca. I think in the beginning, when it just started, I found a lot of men in the industry, and mainly men. And then mainly men as well when you're talking about sommelier in the restaurants. Actually, it was a little bit more challenging for women, like for 10 years ago, for actually working, because it's mainly they prefer men, and even people like his customers, they just have that think in their mind, and they need to be a man in the restaurant. There's no woman. So I think people changing now. We see more women interested in the wines. Even like if you see master of wines in the world and master of sommeliers, mainly it's men, but now these numbers is changing now for women. I guess women's more interested in the wine. Is if you see 10 years ago when you started and now, I see a big difference between even like the women consumers. Women consume much more wine in today than was 10 years ago. So I think women's consuming more wine, and they're more interested about wine now than actually was before. And then sommelier professional was for men, not for women. And even they have like these things like if you're a woman, you pay less, and if you're a man, you pay more. So now we have this a little these are little things is different as well. And I guess not just in sommelier think, but I know some friends are winemakers as well. Winemaker, like everyone knows, when he actually started like a vintage time, you really need your time full time. You need to work like 12, 13, 14 hours, sometimes more, depending how many grapes you receive in that day. And then sometimes
okay
this can
there?
be, yeah. And then sometimes this,
Just
and then
making sure we don't need to do a little pause.
No, we don't need that. And then sometimes it can be complicated in the wine industry as well. So I guess it's changing now. I think a woman's more accepting now, but definitely have been in the fight between that. So women need to fight quite hard. And then it happened as well. I don't know if you heard about. So the court of Master Sommelier just had like a very big thing as well happening there. So some men try to get it too close to some of the candidates or woman candidates. If they wanted to pass the exam, they need to be close to the directors and the things. And then that became again, men try to get an advantage because a woman is always in the weak side. Makes sense.
Yes, but women are so powerful in so many different ways. So we're able to conquer all kinds of things. So, what I wanted to mention real quickly. So as I mentioned, I don't believe that we are broadcasting on Facebook today because there are some problems with Facebook. We are happy to answer any questions. Please give us some little hearts or some little high fives on LinkedIn and let us know you're here. We're happy to answer questions live, and we can post your question live. So let us know you're around because we'd love to have you involved with us. And now, Priscilla, let's talk a little bit about that you traveled to 30 countries. So tell us what that looks like.
Oh, amazing. It's so funny, Jessyca, because you have been traveling as well. You probably know that as well. But
I've traveled a lot too. In fact, we'll talk about our culture shock stories or some of our interesting travel stories, but okay.
So every wine region is different. And grapes are like different, and like even making wines and have like a different stories and different things, and the vineyards as well. We're always learning something new. I guess traveling during like in different wine regions in Europe, my husband just feel like my husband went to with me, and he's not in the wine industry at all. And he said like, it seems like I'm learning so much in this trip because you're really, when you travel, you're really learning much more than just reading books, because you have the experience, and that experience is staying in your mind, and you can share with other people, because you see that, and then that's staying forever than just read a book. And that's what I wanted when I went to Europe. And it was amazing to be able to go to Burgundy, Bordeaux, and I see that's places everyone talking about, like that's famous places around the world. And I went to Italy, to Piemonte, to see Barolo, Barbaresco, these famous wines in the world. And to actually see where they come from and why they're important, why they became so famous in the world, why the price is so up. So he started to understand the whole industry, not just like a simple bottle of wine. You see much more deep about these details. So it was amazing. But yeah, the culture shock, it's always something always different. Always people have different ideas, different talks, different ways to think. And but that's beautiful as well. It's always challenging, and always something new to learn.
I think it's interesting too. So if you also let's talk. Okay, so we talked about the traveling to 30 countries, and I think anytime any of us travel, it's such an opening to. I think the first time I traveled internationally, it was, well, I did some things like going to Canada or that kind of thing, but the big international trip was to Italy. And I think the first time
Italy?
you were in a different culture, because we're in a bubble in our own countries of what we think happens in the world. So as soon as you leave your bubble and go to the rest of the world and go, wow, things don't operate that way. It's very eye-opening, and I think it really makes us really interesting individual people when we see these different cultures. And one thing I think that I enjoy about the wine industry is there's so many international travelers, and I tend to gravitate toward people that have traveled, and I tend to be friends with people that are from other countries, international countries. So let's see here. Okay, so let's do some of our culture shock. Have you had you culture shock scenarios? I've got some interesting culture shock scenarios.
Do you want to start with one? Do you want to share your big shock in your life when you went to Italy or Brazil?
Culture shock. So I've had a lot of culture shock. I've had, well, some of them aren't necessarily culture shock. They've been traveling situations of, boy, things we learn when we travel to take with us, or things to avoid when we travel. So there's a lot of things I've learned over the years about, because in different cultures, they're just different climates. And so I had food poisoning in Italy the first time I went.
Oh.
It was very unpleasant in Pompeii, but that has nothing. And I was on a tour the first time I went for 2 weeks, and I had food poisoning, and I was very sick. And I had to sit on the front steps of the bus while we were traveling from place to place with a Sprite and a packet of crackers. But that really isn't anything to do with culture shock. It's just one of those little travel stories. And there's a picture of me. I'd been really, really sick. And at some juncture, I got up at 3 a.m, and there were some Australian men sitting there.
Australia.
Having a great time. And I'm up, and I love the picture because I look awful. I think my eyes were red from all of the, being sick. And then I'm down there with them smiling. It was so funny. So, okay. So, okay. Do you have a culture shock story? You have to have Brazilian woman in Australia. There's got to be a culture shock story.
Oh yeah, for sure it is. I guess it was always a culture shock whenever I lived outside of Brazil. So always have different things to do and a different culture to actually to think about, and how to react to like different things, and how it really is small, like for me it was all different in Australia, all different. And in Brazil, like we don't buy things new all the time in Australia, because the economy, it's pretty better and it's more advanced economy and things like that. So people just buy things all the time and they never understand why. And it just to like different things like this. People, it's thinking different of you, but in the same time, I found a lot of things similar. So I found Australia very happy people as well. Like people in Australia, it's more like to enjoy life as well, like as Brasilia. So I guess was some of quite a few things I have to adapt it, but in the same way we have some things similar, because I think in other countries as well can be like more cold things as well. People not wanted to enjoy as much, or don't get close as much with the other people. And Australia, I think they are more, you probably know Australia because you have been here as well. So people in Australia, that's very open to receive you, and they, because in Australia we have so many people around the world. It's a lot of Brazilians, a lot of Chinese, a lot of Japanese. We have people from everywhere in the world. So foreign people, it's not something very new. Like in Brazil, you probably see more people from Brazil living there, not so much foreign people living in Brazil. So that's why when we see someone like Jessyca, like America, was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. God. She's so perfect. She speaks English. Oh my God.
I go to Brazil, and I wear a size medium in the United States, and medium doesn't exist in Brazil. Medium is called giant size, extra large. Yeah. So I can't buy clothes. So I've gone to here's a culture shock story. So I've been to Brazil many, many times, and these are things I learned. The first time I went, my luggage didn't arrive. And so they kept calling me and maybe it's the third or fourth time I went, my luggage didn't arrive. And they kept calling me saying the luggage is at the airport, we'll bring it. So I'd say, okay, great. And they wouldn't bring it. So then this went on for days. I have a whole photo film of me in the same clothes for 10 days with the same shirt and the same pants. And because I can't, when I got money to spend to buy clothes, but the clothes don't fit me because the Brazilian women are so much smaller than me because I'm so much taller. And so I couldn't find any clothes. So I'm wearing the same clothes for 10 days. It's like, well, this is great. And then I think that was one. And then subsequently, many occasions, my clothes didn't arrive in Brazil. So my husband, and the other thing, I'm a very light packer, and my husband's Brazilian. And so Brazilians tend to want to take like 20 pieces of luggage because they're taking home all, the entire Ross Dress for Less in their luggage bags. So the last time I said, I need to carry my own bag because my luggage doesn't show up. And he said, no, we need to pack it because we've got to pack these things in it. We have to. So I get to Brazil and my luggage doesn't show up. And then the 20 bags with all of the merchandise in them don't show up either. So it's like, wonderful. So things like that.
So you lost all your luggage all the time.
To Brazil. I've lost it a lot in Brazil. So it'll get to Brazil, and then the one first time, the whole time I had no luggage, and then when I got to the airport, they handed it to me. When I had to leave, they were like, "Here's your luggage." So I've had some. So I try to carry everything on there.
So you pretty much now you learn, not put anything values in your luggage. Just make sure you can get in there without any trouble. Oh my God, that's sad because it's always could happen, but I think, I'm glad it never happened that to me. So
no, I didn't enjoy it either. Okay, so really quickly, so we're at 27 minutes. So let's take a look at how does COVID impact how has the hospitality industry been impacted in Australia?
It has been up and down because now at the moment Melbourne, Sydney has been locked down for over 2 months now, and then there has been struggling again. So it has been like up. When they open, they need a lot of people, and they are not people to work. In the wine industry or in the wine industry, in the restaurants industry and things like that. But when they lock down, they close it. And the people just sick of that. So I have a job today and I lock down, I don't have a job, And then that has been like a lot of people try to go in different areas and then try to find different jobs because people just wanted to depend on working the restaurants. When they open, they close it and you don't have a job. And then restaurant industry, and bars and cafes and stuff, it just been suffering a lot with this industry. And the wine industry has been impacted as well by China because we're not exporting wines to China anymore. And it was a big market for Australia. So that's the main market, and the main export market, it was China. So, and then today, Australia tried to find in different countries to be able to export the wines because 60% of the wine produced in Australia was for export. And that's has been impacted as well, the wine industry. So I guess a lot of things is going on, and because the borders are still closed, so no one's coming here. So the tourism, like international tourism, is down because you don't have anyone's coming from US. We have a lot of Americans coming here. I remember I was working in the wine industry with wine tourism, and we have a lot of people from America to visit us here. But these days, we don't because I have the border closed. And then usually the Americans have like good money to spend in Australia. But in these days, we not be able to get that economic thing. So yeah, I guess it's been struggling with the COVID because and the people in Australia can't get out either. So have to be here. And hopefully now the people say in November maybe change. We try to get a vaccination to everyone in Australia to be able to get the borders open again, because I think the country cannot be close the borders for such a long time because have the visas as well. They earn a lot of money with visas, and we don't have students coming here because the border is closed. So I guess students, like visas for students is not coming now. Tourism is not coming now. Sydney, Melbourne has been closed, and bars, restaurants, and other stuff has been suffering. The wine industry is suffering because they lost to China as export market. So it has been a lot of trouble since the COVID. And then not easy for the people in Australia, the winemakers, just get a plane and they go into other countries and they try to talk with the other people because, it's has been always, is a ban to leave the Australia. So you can't really leave Australia now. And if you wanted to leave Australia, you have to ask permission to the government. So it's literally no one is getting out, no one's coming in. It's actually,
are you guys wearing masks right now? We're back in mask full time.
Yes, and in some it's depend of the state, but every state they are different rules. But South Australia, where I am now, so for example, for supermarkets or anywhere you go closed, so you need to use mask. But if you are open on the street, you don't have to. So it's depending where you go. So every state is different. Like Melbourne now is everyone need to use masks, and Sydney as well because the cases there. We have a lot of cases coming from the COVID cases in Sydney, Melbourne, at the moment, and they still in lockdown. So it has been locked down for a long time, fortunately. So it has been this up and down in Australia with the COVID. And in South Australia, in any other states as well. If you have one case of COVID, the government just pretty much locked down for 7 days, which is 14 days. It depends how many COVID cases.
We've had the same issue here with COVID. With just, I think there's been so much uncertainty. It's just so uncomfortable. We think it's going. So I guess about 3 months ago, well, in November and December, we were on extreme lockdown and we weren't supposed to really be visiting with our families unless we really weren't supposed to visit with our own family. So we weren't supposed to have Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's with our families. We were supposed to stay socially distanced unless we were sitting outside 6 feet apart or something like that. And it was really mentioned that we were supposed to stay apart from each other. So the next part was that so what I was going to say about that is then we went all the way. I don't remember. I think a couple of months ago, we had fires in the middle of this. So we had extreme wildfires and evacuations. So the city in the middle of COVID was filled with extreme smoke and the air was orange. And then I thought, oh, great, we have COVID and we can't breathe. That's going to be this kind of the apocalypse here with fires and COVID and not being able to breathe. And then things opened back up and they said, okay, take your mask off. We can start going to concerts. We're back to normal. We can do concerts. We can do athletics. And then we went straight back to mask full time. And it's just back and forth. Every time they say, oh, let's go forward ahead and do all these fun things. Then the COVID numbers rise and then we go back and then we end up having really high numbers of COVID in the hospitals are full of COVID patients.
Can I just ask you one thing? So everyone is vaccinating there now or big amount of population? How does it work?
I need to look. I think a big amount of the population, when we go places, we're required to have a vaccine card with us, but otherwise I think that so we've got that available. We have to have the vaccine card, and I think a lot of people have the vaccine, but I still think there might be a large part of the population that hasn't had the vaccine. Okay. And then those people seem to be getting infected right now. And so real quickly before we end, because we're at about 35 minutes, I want to talk about your business and what you do and how people can reach you. And I think I've got here your Twitter page. I've got your Twitter handle here. And then after that, let's talk about So we'll talk about your business and how people find you. And then this is your Twitter handle here. And I know you're not really active on Twitter, so you can talk about the better way to reach you.
Yeah. So I'm not very, so I'm not active in the Twitter, but I'm very active in LinkedIn and Instagram or email. So you can send email anytime so I can actually answer straight away. And so my business is about to like helping wine industry to communicate better. So I do like we actually working together to realize what is the problem it is, what actually we can do better for communicate better, like in the social media, but not only in the social media and in different channels. Try to no, actually making a lot of different content, not just like it just posters of the things, or just to say, hey, hi, how are you? That's my winery. Come here to visit. But you try to create it to be more creative with different things, how we can promote it better, how you can reach more people, and how you can sell more wines. What we're training people to be able to sell more wines as well. So what people want to listen, what the people want to know. It's not about how you make wine, it's about why you make wines, It's always you have it to remember that. And if people like stories, people don't like to be just in the same things when everyone make premium wine. They want to just to know why you make premium wines. And that is the way to try to explain it, to communicate to different people. So we go into business and helping them to sell more wine and to communicate better and in different ways, and then create different content like podcasts as well. So we had as well a podcast is a wine soundtrack. So it's actually international podcast. So we have hosts around the world. I am the Australian one, so we promoting Australian wines around the world as well. So the idea for the business as well is try to promote Australian wines, not just in Australia, but around the world as well. So beyond that, so my contact is just Priscilla at Hennekam, like it is on my surname wines.com. So very easy to remember and to send me mail for any questions or anything. But if you see me on my Instagram, it's the same, Hennekam Sommelier as well. So if you put it Priscilla Hennekam, pretty much I think I'm the only Priscilla Hennekam on the internet, I guess. No, it's not another Priscilla Hennekam. If you put in the Google, you'll find me very easy. Because I don't think it's have like a different Priscilla Hennekam. It's like a Jessyca Lewis. Yeah, so you have more than one? I don't think so. When I put your name in the Google, just appear.
With the Y, yeah, the Y. So, okay, so what was I going to say? I was going to ask you something, and I don't remember what it was. Okay, so I'm going to end the broadcast. So it's going to take a minute for it to end. So we can't be doing anything weird in the background. We're going to have to.
Okay.
Just FYI. So we'll just end the broadcast. And then if you have questions that you want to ask us, feel free to ask us on LinkedIn. We can answer you later, or on Facebook on the replay of this. I may be also posting this to Twitter. So anyhow, and then we'll get together again. What I'm working on now is video editing. I have to learn video editing. I am certain we'll be doing Instagram broadcast. I just haven't had a lot of time for to do everything. It takes about 50 hours a week. And I'm also going to be doing TikTok. So, and then there's Clubhouse and whatever else comes along with social media that we have to do every day. So, okay. So
thank you so much, Jessyca.
No, okay, I can't. Obrigado.
Yes, perfect.
You say ciao, right? I've been to so many countries. It's like, okay, how do you say goodbye where you live? So
ciao is perfect.
To end the broadcast here, and then we'll end the broadcast again. So, ciao to you, Priscilla.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye. I'll see you later.